Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Chuck and Barb Lewis, equipping listeners and viewers with the biblical tools to conquer the difficulties faced in this life. Chuck has practiced crisis intervention since the 1980s and has been in ministry together with his wife Barb for over 20 years. They've taken the countless lessons and the knowledge they've acquired and have put them into this life skills class to share with you. We hope this blesses you.
Well, hello again. This is Pastor Chuck Lewis and my wife, Barbara.
Hi, glad to see you all again.
I guess I said your name.
That's okay.
Instead of you saying it. So we've been doing a series on reducing conflict. In this last series, we're going to be talking about reducing conflict with our adult children. Now, there's a lot of children out there, a lot of parents watching that has small children, but we're going to be talking about adult children because we only have time to talk about one group of children. And we have adult children. And so today on reducing conflict with that, we're going to talk of ways to help reduce conflict with that. So, it's been kind of a new experience having adult children for us. We've never done that before. This is our first time, right?
It's a journey.
Yeah, I used to tell my daughter when we're a blended family and I have a biological daughter and Barb has two biological daughters. And I used to tell my daughter when she was a little girl, I said, honey, if you wonder if I know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. And if they gave me an instruction manual when you were born, I don't know what I did with it. It's so funny that we're tested for so many things, but when we have a child, it's like they just put that bundle in our arms and say, have a nice life.
Right.
And we're going, I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, we've learned some things about our children and being a blah, blah, blah,
Blah, blah, blah.
blah, 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 blended family. And so we want to pass some of those things on to you that would be helpful. One thing that I have learned tremendously in being a blended family is I have to be the key player for my biological daughter, and Barb is the key player for your daughters.
Mm-hmm. That's especially true when they're small.
And key player, what does that mean?
Well, that might be I'm the contact. And when they're younger, with discipline, I would be the person that would handle that. And when they're older, I don't know, I guess it's still being the primary contact or handling communication, or I don't know if I'm explaining that very good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't walk into a situation like that and say, well, now I'm married, so now I'm the father. That still works with my daughter biologically, but it wouldn't work with your daughters because I'm not the biological father, and I can't just act like because I'm in the position of father, I can just automatically step into that role.
Yeah, you're not trying to take the blood parent's place.
No.
But you do want to have a good, respectful, and kind relationship with them and loving. You want for love to grow. Yeah,
so to reduce conflict, I can't just start ordering them around, like I'm the father and you're going to do exactly what I say. In fact, you're going to start calling me dad, because that's what I am. And that's horrible. That would be the biggest mistake in the world to do that. Relationships have to take time. They have to develop. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of safety in that. And then if it works out to where the blended family child wants to call you dad, that's fine, but that has to be their decision. You can't force that. And I can't force the position being in their life as father. I have to let her, Barb, be the key player, the one that makes decisions for her daughters, and I make the final decision for my daughters. Now, we can talk about it in private, but when it comes to issuing what the final outcome is, we have to be the ones doing that with our own
Right.
child.
And of course, talking about how it affects the whole family and us being in agreement. But as far as the one that's communicating the decision, yeah, we think it's better if it's the blood parent.
I mean, that was a lifesaver for me to learn that when we first got married. And if I had not known that and really got that teaching, I would have done it all wrong. I would have absolutely closed your daughter's spirits by just walking into my leadership role because I don't have any problem at all being a leader and that's what God's called me to be in. But when it comes to parenting and it comes to this kind of dynamic, it just is not the same. Not the same.
Yeah, it's a journey. We definitely made a lot of mistakes. But you know, the journey with adult children is also a transition. Like when they're at home, you're more in control, you're more responsible for what they do as they transition into adulthood. I remember finding that it was hard to let go and hard to know when it was time for us to stop doing something. You know, the finances are a gradual letting go. If they're in college, you're probably possibly still helping financially, which affects your being responsible for some of their decisions. But overall, what we have found with adult children, number one, it's always so important to treat them with dignity and respect and kindness. And, you know, they're where they are now, our kids are living their own lives. We need to give them the dignity of making their own mistakes, making their own choices, letting them experience the blessings when they make a good decision and the consequences when they make a bad decision. So we need to let them live their lives. And we need to know, I know it can be so tempting to want to keep telling your kids what to do. You've lived more life than they have. You sure, probably, I'm sure, know more than they do. But kids do need the struggle of being an adult and doing their own problem solving. And unless they are asking you for advice, we have now transitioned into a consultant role, not
Yes.
necessarily the person that's responsible for their decisions. And I found if we keep trying to tell them what to do, it just makes them feel like you don't think I have the brains to live life or make a decision. And we don't want them to feel that way.
Right.
We want them to know that we believe in them. We need to notice when they make a good decision. And we probably need to keep our mouth shut when they make a bad decision.
Yeah.
But it's our kids really always need encouragement and love. And they need to hear what they do right more than what they do wrong. And one thing I was thinking about with advice is that unsolicited advice is criticism. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we have to think about what is our motivation of wanting to say something to the kids? Is it to make us feel better or to make them feel better? And Chuck is so wonderful on asking questions. And I think a lot of times it's really good to ask your kids questions instead of making a statement. Like if they're telling you something that's going on with them, it's pretty incredible. And you can just say, would you like some feedback on that? Mm-hmm. And then they have the choice. They can say yes or no. Maybe they just wanted to vent and have you listen and validate how they feel.
Yeah, and if they say, no, I don't want feedback, you don't say, well, I'm the parent, you're going to hear this whether you want it or not. I mean, that might work when they're little kids, but not as adults. Right. You just close their spirit and they shut you out anyway. They're not hearing anything you're saying. So you're doing that for you more than you're doing it for them.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to offer your own experience. You can say, would you like to hear what that was like for me when I went through a similar situation and how I handled it? And then again, they can choose to hear that or not, but you're not telling them what to do. You're just letting them know how you handled it. You can even share if you made a mistake and you didn't handle it very well and what you learned from that. I think kids love to hear that we know we're not perfect.
Oh gosh, I've heard that so much. I've had kids say, I would love it if my parents would ever say, I was wrong when I said that or I did that.
Mhm.
Would you please forgive me? Wow.
Yes, huge.
That is so big.
Hmm.
And I've literally, Barb, had parents say, well, I don't want to admit that I'm wrong because I don't want the kids to think I don't know what I'm doing. And then I ask them, do you know what you're doing? No, but I don't want my kids to know that.
Yeah. Another good point is I think sometimes when we feel absolutely compelled to give our kids advice, please realize that the Holy Spirit leads and Satan pushes.
Yes.
So if you are feeling absolutely compelled to share what's on your mind, but they're not asking you, then it's probably not God.
That's right.
And it's probably not going to help. It probably would make it worse because if they're not asking for the advice, they probably aren't going to be able to hear it.
Well, and another thing is that parents say, well, I feel like if I don't tell them, I'm going to feel guilty that I didn't tell them. And if the consequence happens to them, I'm going to feel guilty for that. Well, we learn from our own consequences.
Mm-hmm.
We've always learned from, when I hit my thumb with a hammer when I'm pounding in a nail, that teaches me to really be careful
Mm-hmm.
about, not hitting my thumb. If I don't go through that pain, I don't learn. I never
That's
learn.
right. Yeah.
And we don't want our kids to experience anything,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going to experience things. And I was so off balance with that when my daughter first started learning how to walk. I was walking behind her with a pillow. So when she fell, she'd fall on the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how realistic was that, right? But I knew that learning from experiences would help her learn and grow. And another thing is not saying things that close our kids' spirit.
That's good.
Because you can say things that's truthful. And well, it's the truth. Somebody's got to tell you. But if you close their spirit, they're not going to hear you anyway. And they're just going to turn you off. A person that has a closed spirit, and we've talked about that on other programs, that if their spirit is closed toward you, you can like a red truck, and they hate red trucks. I mean, it's like a closed spirit just shuts everything down. So the key is learning how to communicate in an honoring, respectful way that you can develop safety and trust in that relationship, that maybe they will start asking you for advice. And don't fall over when they ask you for advice, but just give that to them. Just say, thanks for asking, and I'll give you what I know. Don't act like you know everything about everything, because you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, nobody does. But just say, well, one thing I did learn from my own experience, like Barb said, is I learned this or I learned that. And that's how people can receive from you. But you do it in a non-critical, non-threatening way.
Yeah.
You never start the conversation out by, what your problem is? No, that's probably going to have a bad conclusion.
Right.
So, one thing that I run into a lot from people is, if you have a blended family, how do you agree on the finances? How do you agree on what you spend on the kids? And Barb and I started something, and I believe the Holy Spirit gave us this idea that we started a fund that we contributed to, I think like $25 a month or something like that. And we just let it accumulate. So whenever there was there more than that?
I think it was about 50.
It was 50. But anyway, whenever something came up with the kids that cost money, if they lived out of town or whatever, and say Barb or I wanted to fly to where they were to be with them, well, we would just say, how much is in the kids fund? And is there enough to take care of it? And if there was, that we would just do it. And if there wasn't, we'd have to wait until there was enough money to be able to do that.
And
That saves so much.
Yes, that was good, and still is. Another thing we do is with our finances is that Chuck and I both take allowance money, so we don't have to ask each other for every dime because we combine our finances. Not everybody does that. Some people have separate finances, but
Right.
we chose to combine ours. But we have an allowance money that we each take so much a month that we don't have to check with the other person about how we spend that money.
Right, absolutely. If I want a fishing rod that I see, because I'm really into fishing, if I have my allowance money, I just go buy it. I don't have to call Barb up and say, hey, can I buy this fishing rod or whatever? I can just buy it if I have the money. Now, if I don't have enough in my allowance to pay for that, I might have to wait until I do. But that's good discipline too, to show me that I can wait for that and get it whenever I can. So little tips like that, can really help reduce conflict. The more you try things that work better will help you to reduce conflict. But if you don't try new things and you keep doing what you're doing that's not working, then conflict's just going to keep increasing. And the problem is it becomes like a storage vault. And then after a while, there's so much in that vault that's not resolved that's when explosions happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when people say horrible things that they can't take back. And that's another point. Never speak what you don't want to see happen. We never mention the divorce word to each other. We never say that because
And don't say things to your kids that you don't want to see happen.
That's right. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to put you out, or I'm gonna send you on down the road. Don't say that stuff. Don't threaten them with idle words. And you might be sitting there saying, oh, they're not idle, they're truth. Well, you can feel that way, but you don't have to act it out. Because really, our kids are so influenced by what we say. Even as adults, they're still influenced by what we say. My daughter tells me things that I said when she was 10 years old. And not only what I said, but what I was wearing when I said it. What part of the house we were in. I mean, that's how much of effect that had.
And you didn't think she was listening.
I had no idea that she was listening. In fact, I thought for years something was wrong with her shoulder because every time I'd ask her to do something, she'd go, okay. And I thought her shoulder would keep going out or whatever. But and we laugh about that now today. But it's just like learning how to keep our spirits open toward each other and see them, our children, as a gift of God. And if our adult children make statements that we don't like, what do we do?
Well, a soft answer turns away wrath.
Yep.
Thinking before we speak, trying to see where that what they're saying is coming from, not taking it personally.
Right.
Yeah. I would like to cover a few things before we close that just feel really important to me.
Sure.
I want to say that our kids are helped more by our love than our judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get into judgment about what your kids are doing.
Right.
Our prayers help them more than our fear. I know as a mother, oh my goodness, it's really, your kids really know how to keep you on your knees, and we can worry about them. It's important for us to stay in the present and to trust the Lord. And I know it really helps me a lot for Chuck and I to pray about what's going on with them rather than worry and wring our hands. And I know every parent out there will know that we are always praying for our children. We love them so much. But remember, our prayers help them more than our fear or our worry. We need to trust the Lord with them and expect Him to do something good. And I think it's very important to pray the Word of God over your kids. That is very powerful. There's two things I want to talk about before we quit. And one is detaching. Sometimes when your kids get older, their problems also get bigger. And we can get so involved in what's going on with them that we need to detach from what's going on, either, and I'm not talking about physical detachment, not abandoning. So detaching with love is not unfeeling distancing or obsessive involvement. It's stepping back to gain perspective on what's going on, not taking responsibility for what's going on with them. If they fail, the failure is not yours. Detachment is more compassionate and respectful than unfeeling distancing or abandonment or obsessive involvement. Obsession with what's going on with your kids is not love. Behavior motivated by fear is not love. So that if you're making decisions about your kids out of a place of fear and not love, that is not good.
Right.
So detachment is just to separate ourselves emotionally and spiritually from someone, to let them take responsibility for what's theirs. I kind of see it as a hula hoop. I'm responsible for what's in my hula hoop. They are responsible for what's in their hula hoop. And I've also heard it termed as staying on your own side of the street.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to say that's really important for parents is to forgive yourself for your mistakes.
Yes.
I don't know any parent that doesn't have some guilt,
Oh, gosh.
some worse than others. But let me tell you, guilt is the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right.
And God isn't putting guilt on you. You need to bring it all to the Lord and just give him everything that you should have done that you didn't do, or you did do that you shouldn't have done, because all of us do the best we can, and we make mistakes out of our own woundedness. But you cannot keep beating yourself up for what you did wrong. It will just hinder the relationship that you're having with them now.
So true.
If you need to talk to them about what you did wrong, I mean, I've definitely appreciated when I grew to the point where I could tell them, "What can you tell me what I did that hurt you?" And then I have to be able to hear it and own it and validate their feelings. But when they feel heard and validated by us, then we can say, "I'm so sorry. Could you please forgive me?
Yes.
I didn't do that right." But don't make excuses for yourself or say, "Well, you're way too sensitive," or "You shouldn't get mad over that," or whatever. Whatever hurt them is how they perceived it. And we need to hear it and love on them. But please, please forgive yourself.
That's right. There you go. Well, we need to close today, but write in the comments down below some of the things that you're experiencing, some of the things you want us to respond to, and we'll be glad to do that. God bless you. It's been great to be with you today. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
If you are blessed by this ministry, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also make donations at chucklewisministries.com. Join us to keep uncovering the tools to build better relationships together. Let's do this again next week.